Migration. Due to its conflicting nature, the Kashmir Valley has witnessed many painful departures. During the 90s, when the demand for freedom picked up, the momentum rose to its peak. The valley was in the grip of a full-fledged insurrection. The valley was inundated with heavy militarization, which was never witnessed before. Many families had to bear the losses of their loved ones, while majority faced the human rights abuses at the hands of the armed forces in their day-to-day lives. The frequency at which teenagers were being detained, killed, or reported missing was alarming and worrisome for the parents. Kashmiris were watching many teenagers pick up arms to seek justice for their loved ones, and bidding farewell to their worldly lives. While the situation was grim in the valley, the painstaking stories and horrific nights led to the departure of many Kashmiri families from the valley. The fear of losing their children to the conflict was the main reason for the migration in large numbers. While people only talk about the migration of Pandits, and how armed resistance, allegedly, was the main reason for their migration. But, thousands of Muslim families did migrate as well, following the brutalities of the armed forces and the day-to-day abuses people had to face in the valley. There are many available reports highlighting the massacres, illegal detentions, extrajudicial killings, and cases of mass rapes, etc. It was very obvious that the children and the women were at greater risk of facing abuses by the armed forces. The families who could manage left the valley and settled in different cities of India, while some well-off families settled in abroad. Everyone had to bear the pain of this separation from their land, people, and culture. Over the years, the situation kept on becoming worse, and migration continues, until now. More than 100,000 people have died due to the conflict, and it has affected everyone in the valley. The youth are still under threat, and women are still unsafe. The free hand given to the army under RSS has made everyone insecure and unsafe in the valley. Last year alone, 400 plus were killed. In the recent ongoing clampdown, thousands are detained illegally, besides other human rights violations that have continued taking place for over a decade now. While India keeps blaming Pakistan for every action, and Indians keep bringing the migration of Pandits in different forms that suit their narrative, like some will say millions of Pandits were killed, although it's condemnable, but the count was between 200 to 400, and there were targeted killings against both Muslims and Pandits. While the Kashmiri Muslims have never supported or rejoiced the KP migration, and often called for an investigation into the matter. But, this is not the case when Kashmiris are killed, tortured, or detained by armed forces, and is often being celebrated by the majority of Pandits and Indians. The Indian media and IT cells have relentlessly worked with some Pandit and Sanghi communities over the years to build this communal narrative of Kashmir. However, the role of politics had to be played by politicians in communalizing the whole Kashmir issue, and using Pandits as a tool. It is very clear that Kashmiris have suffered at the hands of the Indian government, and their policies, regardless of our religious affiliations. While they have oppressed Kashmiri Muslims because of their religion, they have used the Pandits as a tool for the same reason. The government claims to have benefited Pandits by the revocation of Article 370, and promises their settlement in the valley, while pushing the majority of the Muslim population to the wall. This may temporarily give a sense of victory to the RSS stooges, or Hindutva parties, who have misled the whole Pandit community, but it will not solve the core issue of Kashmir. By caging the entire Kashmiri population, shutting down all communication channels, and not letting their voices be heard, the government has taken it as consent, and clearly ignored their dissent. This forced implementation will prove futile in the future. The government and the world must acknowledge that the Kashmir issue is a dispute that can only be resolved with the consent of the people of Kashmir. And, we hope everyone who once left the valley during the period of violence, returns to the Valley of Peace, one day. A valley free from military presence, and without fear of being struck in the middle of the night, is a dream of every Kashmiri. Let's amplify the truth.